Okay. Unmute yourself. All right, so I'm not sure if the thing went on, but since we have 0 viewers right now, so we're going to wait 2 minutes because I think the trailer was 4 minutes, and I'm not sure if the trailer is happening right now. But we'll wait until 12:05 to start. All right. So viewers are starting to come in. I could see that we already have 10 viewers. So we're just going to wait 1 more minute, and we're going to start our Google Hangout, which this week is entitled How to Be a Successful College Student, Lessons from Other Dreamers. And we're really excited for the people who are with us today. And we're just going to wait 1 more minute. Oh, there it is. It's 12:05. All right. So thank you so much for coming on a Saturday. We asked you through your Facebook private message group that we have what days would make most sense for you to watch Google Hangouts, and a lot of you mentioned Saturday. So we're going to try this out and see if this works. And if it doesn't work, we'll just go back to the regular weekday to start our Google Hangout. So remember, this is part of a series. We're going to do hopefully one of these a month. And we're going to bring to you the topics that you're interested in. We're also going to bring to you different speakers, from speakers who are in the business world to nurses and doctors to engineers to people that can guide and help you through your journey through college. And, of course, from the Dream That US, good information about what is happening with the scholarship. And just a quick little message. We are going to start our fall round and start receiving applications on September 1. So if you have brothers and sisters, friends, or people that you know that might be able to apply for a scholarship, please let them know, get the word out. And we have provided flyers and stuff like that, but you could also guide them to their website for more information. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you 2 of my really good friends. They happen to be 2 people from Arizona. And these 2 really amazing dreamers have been doing incredible work in not just in their fields of what they're doing, but also in their communities. And first, I want to introduce to you Herman, who is going to be leading our conversation today. He is a PhD student at ASU University. I met Herman in 2010 when we together were fighting here in Washington, D.C. for the DREAM Act. And Herman has just done amazing work. I remember he, a couple of years ago, started fundraising, doing crowdfunding campaign through GoFundMe to be able to go to college. And he eventually was able to not just enter his master's and PhD program, but also was able to along the way get papers. But we always say once a dreamer, always a dreamer, and the experience that Herman has had as a dreamer, he continues to share it. And he's going to tell you a little bit more about himself. But I'm really excited because not only is he doing his PhD, and soon we're going to be calling him Dr. Herman Cadenas, but also he teaches at ASU University. And the other person I want to introduce to you is my good friend Jose Magaña. And Jose Magaña is also a dreamer, and he is from Mexico and grew up in Arizona. And he's had a couple of moves since his first big move from Mexico to Arizona. And he's also going to tell you a little bit about his time in Texas and what was he doing in Texas. He also probably is going to tell you a little bit about a group that both Herman and Jose started, both in Arizona, to come together as dreamers to find solutions to this lack of not just documentation but access to higher education. And the other thing about Jose is that Jose is a staff attorney at MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. And as an attorney, he works here, and he's been working here in Washington, D.C., to fight for immigration reform, but also to represent the voice and see, what was happening with the Latino community and be one of our amazing fighters for social justice. So I want to now hand it over to Jose. Jose, remember that you're on mute, so take yourself on mute before you start talking. And Jose.
Good morning, afternoon, all. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just going to take a little bit of time to talk a little bit about my story and how I got here today. Gabby, thank you so much for organizing this hangout. Herman, thank you so much for helping coordinate this as well. So my name is Jose Magaña. I'm not supposed to be in the country. I'm actually a DACA holder. I was brought to the country when I was 2 years old, and I grew up mostly in Arizona. And like probably many of you, growing up, our family didn't really have a lot of money. We spent most of our life in one-bedroom apartments. For the first 17 years of my life, I actually slept on a couch. It was a very comfortable couch, but because of the way it worked, it was my mom, my younger brother, and myself living in a one-bedroom apartment. And so a lot of times I wouldn't even see my mom because she would be working so many different jobs that, when I came home from school, she would already be gone for her second job, and by the time I went to bed, she would already be off to her third. So it was very difficult. We didn't always have all the things that we wanted, but we certainly always had the things that we needed, and that's because my mom and my family were very hard workers. And throughout all of this, one of the things my mom always emphasized was education. The reason that she brought us here is to give us a better life. And so because of my mom's motivations and her hard work, I was able to start college at Arizona State University. Now, this was back before Arizona was kind of the hotbed of anti-immigrant activity. And so what happened is about 2 years into college, after me and several and hundreds of people like me had gotten full scholarships that paid all the in-state tuition for Arizona State University, which is the only way that we could have ever paid for college, Arizona passed this really bad law called Proposition 300. And it basically said that undocumented immigrants, such as myself, could not pay in-state tuition. They had to pay out-of-state tuition, which was 3 times as much, and that we had all our scholarships revoked. So this was very, very traumatic because it wasn't like we all lost our scholarships based on getting bad grades or doing anything wrong. It was literally because the voters of Arizona had decided to take away our financial aid. And Herman, who's also on this call, was actually one of the fellow students there at ASU, and that is actually how Herman and I met. In fact, that is actually how a good close to about hundreds of us were initially connected. But before this, we actually didn't know who was undocumented at ASU. We no conocíamos a nadie. But what happened is, because of this law and because they brought everyone together, we all started asking ourselves, well, what can we do about this? What can we do to prevent this from happening in the future? And so we decided to start organizing, and we started an organization called Suffrage, Students United for Fair Rights and Greater Equality. And then that eventually became the Arizona Dream Act Coalition, one of the largest Dream Act advocacy groups and immigrant advocacy groups in the nation. And so we started organizing. We started tabling and handing out flyers and doing call your legislators campaigns and talking to people, explaining our story, because we realized once we actually explained who we were, why we were here, and what we were doing, the number one reaction we'd get from people is, oh, yeah, you should totally stay in the country. It's those other immigrants that we don't want. And so part of that communication is really reaching out to other people. And I think the best part of this organizing was I finally discovered that I was not alone. For the longest time, your undocumented status wasn't something you talked about. It was very, very private. And this group and these people finally gave us an opportunity to kind of share our stories and realize that there were so many people like us, so many people that had faced these same challenges, and that at the end of the day, we were not alone. And so eventually, some of us were able to finish college through private scholarships. But for me personally, I was like, well, what do I do next? I decided to go to law school, because while I was organizing for immigrant rights, I realized that the next best way to do it was to do it in the legal field, to file lawsuits to stop the bad immigration laws that were being passed across the nation, and at the same time pass good laws at the federal level. But I was undocumented, I didn't know how I was going to be able to pay for law school. I didn't even know if they would accept me. So I ended up applying to about 40 different law schools in an effort to get in somewhere. And I was very, very lucky. I got accepted to virtually all of them. And I got like an aggregate of like $1.2 million in financial aid across all the schools. I decided to go to Texas, and it was a big deal because I had never really lived outside of Arizona. And Texas was a brand new state. I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know how I was going to survive. And so I ended up going to a law school there because they gave me a full scholarship, and I was very, very poor. And it was a bit of a culture shock living there, but I started organizing for immigrant rights there too as well, and that was very beneficial. During my time in law school and partly through college, I started my own business where I sold online office supplies because I didn't have employment authorization. I was also a server, and that's kind of how I survived. I've been financially independent since I was 17 years old, not because my mom didn't want to help me and my brother out, but just because she couldn't, and that's just part of the reality. Eventually, I was able to finish law school, and I moved to D.C. I moved to D.C., and I was very, very fortunate enough to get a job at the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. They do policy and litigation to advance the rights of Latinos and immigrants. And to tell you the truth, this is my dream job. This is literally what I've always wanted my entire life. My first experience with MALDEF, I was finishing high school, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for college because a lot of scholarships just were not available. You all are living in a wonderful time with DACA and with the Dream US, so many financial resources that we never had growing up. And so my first experience with MALDEF was I got a list, and you've probably seen this, a list of all the scholarships that don't require Social Security numbers. And at the top of that list, I saw MALDEF's little logo on it. And I'm like, wow, there's an organization that's fighting for immigrants like me. I want to be a part of that, and I want to continue fighting not only for my rights, but for the rights of my community and my family and the people like me across the nation. And so that's kind of a very broad overview of my story. I'm very excited to see the new crop of DACA holders and DACA eligible dreamers who have really taken a great leadership role. And I think the strongest and best things y'all can do right now is to really focus on your education and show that we are an educated community that wants to improve ourselves and our community, and at the same time, you're going to have people like myself, people like Hedman, people like Gabby that will be there every step of the way to help you however we can. So I'm looking forward to this hangout. I look forward to answering any questions later that you may have. I'll hand it off to Gabby and Hedman. I know Hedman has a pretty wonderful story as well. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Jose, for sharing your story, and we look forward to continuing to hear from you today. So I also wanted to let you know that both Herman and Jose have been fighting for other young people like yourselves, and what we hope is that you take a little bit of what we're telling you here, and that you're able to share with other people, because unfortunately, as we know, we're one of a few. There's 680,000 people that have applied for DACA. There's millions of people out there that are undocumented. And there's probably going to be many students that are going to continue to come even after we hopefully pass some sort of legislation in the future. So, this is the Dream.us. One of the things that we asked for all of our scholars is for people to, take the information, take what you're learning, and pass it on to your other peers. So I want to now take and thank again Herman for the opportunity he has given us to hear from him and pass the baton as he's going to facilitate the discussion that we're going to have this hour. So, Herman.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Gabby, for inviting me and organizing this, and thank you, Jose, for sharing your story. It's very inspiring. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. So my name is Herman Cadenas, and right now I'm a fourth-year PhD student in counseling psychology in Arizona, Arizona State University. But I'm originally from Venezuela, and I immigrated from Venezuela when I was 15 years old, back in 2002, in the middle of a national strike against the Venezuelan government. I remember that when my mom decided to bring me and my brother here, the schools were shut down. There were hospitals that were shut down. The whole nation was undergoing a national strike um, against the government because the government was very divisive. And we feared for our future. We feared for our lives. We thought that Venezuela was going to become the next Cuba. We thought it was going to become a dictatorship, and in many ways it has in the past few years. So we decided to come to the U.S. We came with tourist visas, and we overstayed our visas, like about 40 to 50% of immigrants. And the only choice, the only option we had was to become undocumented in the land of the free. So we did. We didn't go back to Venezuela, and we stayed here. And I kind of took this opportunity I kind of saw this as an opportunity to start fresh and to really apply myself to school and to see how far I could go in this beautiful nation. So I try to catch up on my English in school. I try to become really involved. I was in sports. I was a swimmer. I was a counselor in high school. I was taking AP classes, all the good stuff. And I was working after school too. I was lucky enough that I had a job at Taco Bell. So I was working and really applying myself to school. And I applied to Arizona State University to transfer once I graduated from high school. And they offered me a scholarship. They offered me admission. And then when I got to the admissions office, I gave them my passport. And they looked at it and they said, okay, we're going to call immigration. And my mom was with me. She became very nervous. And she said, well, does it have anything to do with our status? And they said, yes, it has everything to do with your status. We want to check that you're here legally. And so I took my passport and I said, well, we're here undocumented. We don't have papers. And what the lady told me was to go to the ICE office and apply for residency. So I said, okay, I'll come back. I'll come back next week once I apply for residency. They had no idea what to do with undocumented students like me. So I became really discouraged, and I thought I'm just gonna go back to Venezuela and see what I can do there. But my support community, my support network, my family, my friends convinced me not to do that. So I ended up enrolling at a community college and started taking classes there, and I was working full time and paying my way through school. I was working after school, taking classes in the morning. I applied a second time to ASU, and again they told me that I couldn't be admitted, that I needed to have $25,000 in order for them to process a student visa for me. So again, I told them, okay, I'll call you back next week when I have the $25,000. Um, so again, couldn't apply. I ended up graduating with 2 associate's degrees from a local community college, and then I applied again to ASU. La tercera es la vencida. Third time is the charm. I got admitted. The difference this time is that they knew how to handle students like me. They there was a proposition that was passed, Proposition 300, and now they knew that they could charge me 3 times as much as a regular student. So I was admitted, but no way to pay for college. I very poor like Jose. My mom was doing housekeeping, and on top of that, I lost my job. I used to work on sales, and because of E-Verify, I couldn't continue to work on that job, so I couldn't continue to pay my way to school. So again, I became very discouraged, a little depressed. I was thinking, well, what's the point? Isn't this America? Isn't this the land of the free? Aren't we supposed to have opportunities to go to school? So I was very disappointed. And then I got something in the mail from the American Dream Fund, a scholarship from the private sector that would cover a full tuition for my last year in school. So thanks to that scholarship, I was able to go to ASU for my last year. I was really afraid that I was not going to be able to graduate, and so I was taking about 21 credits a semester. I was double majoring in business and psychology, and I was taking so many classes and working at night. I was delivering newspapers from like 11 p.m. to 5 in the morning because that was the only job that me and my family could find after E-Verify. And then I would go to school and take like 7 classes a semester, not sleeping. But I thought, this is worth it. All these sacrifices, I'm going to show them that I can do it. They denied me admissions twice, but I'm going to show these people what dreamers are really about, what undocumented immigrants are really about. And during this year at ASU, I was taking all these classes because I really wanted to graduate within the year. Um, I found people like Jose, people like Eric Andiola, people like Dulce Matus, uh, who also received the scholarship. And at first we were just hanging out because we had to do community service for the scholarship. And I remember that our friend Griselda, who was a journalism student, wanted to publish an article about us, about Dreamers, in the state's newspaper. And I said, no way, you're not going to do that. And some other people said, yes, let's do it. And so the group became very divided. And there were arguments back and forth, and we decided to get together and have a meeting. And half of the room was, no, we cannot publish this article. If we do, Sheriff Joe is going to come to the university and he's going to arrest us. And I was really afraid. I thought, I've worked so hard to get to this point. I'm not going to let an article ruin that. I was really afraid. And half of the room was like, let's do it. Let's lose our fear. Let's go ahead and do this. And so we started talking, and somebody named Daniel Rodriguez was in the room, and Carmen Cornejo, who is a longtime advocate for the Dream Act in Arizona. And we started talking, and we said, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. Let's find out what it is that we can do to advocate for ourselves. And so we started looking up the Dream Act and getting information about immigration reform. And we decided that we were going to lose our fear and come out of the shadows and form suffrage and start advocating for ourselves. And that was, for me, that was a transformative experience because that was the experience that allowed me to lose my fear of telling people that I wasn't documented. Through high school and through college, I had never told anyone, any of my friends, any of my, anyone, any of my closest friends or teachers that I wasn't documented because I was afraid. But it was because of these people coming together, like me, um, who allowed me to lose that fear and become an advocate for immigration reform and for the Dream Act. And the rest is history. As far as ADAC, the Arizona Dream Act Coalition was formed, and now they're kicking butt. In 2009, I was able to graduate with 2 degrees, magna cum laude, from the university that rejected me twice. And to this day, that's I think that's my biggest accomplishment. And it's not really my accomplishment. It's an accomplishment of an entire community that helped me get there. My mom who would drive me to school, the people who helped me get the job at the newspaper, the dreamers who helped me lose my fear. It's a entire accomplishment. Um, so after that, I was still undocumented. I was I remember I was working at some insurance company who was very much exploiting me, paying me like $5 an hour, working 7 days a week or 6 days a week, and I was going nowhere. With 2 degrees, I was not able to get any jobs because I didn't have papers. And I remember during my free time, I would advocate for immigration reform and the DREAM Act, and I decided to apply to graduate school um, to to see how far I could go and to do something with my time since I couldn't get a job. So I ended up getting into a master's degree, and I met a professor who I shared my story with, and he told me you should apply for the PhD. I think you could get in. And so I did, and in 2011, I was admitted to one of the top PhD programs in counseling psychology in the nation, and I was one of only 6 students who were admitted. And to me, that was a big deal because not that many dreamers, not that many undocumented students get to apply or get admitted to PhD programs. And it's not because we don't have the smarts, it's not because we don't have the talent, but it's because we have so many barriers that it's so difficult for us to get to that point. Um, so got admitted. I was very happy about that. And usually they provide funding, teaching assistantships or research assistantships to students who are admitted into PhD programs. They couldn't do that for me because of Proposition 300, which makes it illegal for the state, the universities, to provide assistance to undocumented immigrants in Arizona. Um, so again, I was very, very upset, very discouraged. But I decided, you know what? I've done this before. I'll do it again, and this time I'm gonna do it myself because there's no way to find a scholarship that is gonna pay for it. So I started fundraising, and I met with a friend who was a community organizer, Luis Avila, and he helped me flush out my fundraising campaign. He helped me figure out um, why people would want to donate to my campaign. Why me? Why you? And why now? Why should people care about my campaign? Why now? And why me? Why would they support me? So I put this up on a blog, and I started a crowdsourcing. I started a profile in a crowdsourcing webpage, GoFundMe.com. And so I put it on the website, and I started sending emails to all of my friends, all of my contacts, and I started chronicling my journey to the PhD. I started posting every week about what it was like for me to not be able to access funds, and why I needed people's support. And the campaign went viral. It actually started going all over social media, started going all over traditional media. The newspapers picked it up, the TV picked it up. I was on CNN International, was on a couple of different outlets, and I was able to raise the $25,000 that I needed in order to start my PhD. And again, this is because of the support of an entire community. And I think that what I was able to really accomplish in that campaign is not the money that I raised, but being able to get our story as dreamers out to people who may not have heard it otherwise. Um, so I started my PhD, and along the way, I was able to be able to secure residency through a family petition, which is a very privileged position to be in. And I acknowledge that privilege every day. But what I'm doing now is I'm using that privilege of having this education and this legal status to fight for dreamers. And my research is related to immigration, and now I am the president of the graduate student body at ASU, over 15,000 students, and immigration is one of the core issues that we work on, and I've been able to lift this issue at the national level with the National Association of Graduate Students, who are also fighting for immigration reform. And so I keep fighting, and again, this is there's nothing special about me. There's nothing unique necessarily. Anyone can do it, but they can do it on their own. It takes more than one person to do it.
Perfect. Thank you, Herman. And you wanted to share with us the strategies, right, that people have used in order to be successful in college?
Yes. So there are 8 tips that we wanted to share with you. These are tips that, according to research, these are things that successful, quote unquote, successful students tend to do in order to do well in school. But before I share this with you, I want to ask you, all of those who are watching, I want to ask you to think about what success means to you. Think about that for a little bit. What does success mean to you?
And remember, you can send us questions, and people are sending us questions right now. People are saying really nice things about you, Herman and Jose. People are feeling really inspired. They're saying they can relate to you. I just got one that says, many accomplishments are coming your way, guys. You have created milestones for the rest of us. People like the 3 of you are worthy of admiration. So it's really nice to thank you for your messages. But right now, Herman just asked, and can you repeat the question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question is, what does success mean to you? And I'm asking not what success means to your family or what success means to your teachers or to your communities or to society or what you see in the media. I'm asking what success means to you individually. How do you know if you have been successful? How do you know that? How how will you feel when you are a success? And what does that success look like to you as a person? So think about that. And these 8 tips that we're going to share are 8 things that successful students tend to do, and you can apply them to your educational success, to doing well in school, to having a good GPA. But you can also apply them to whatever it means to be successful to you in life or in school or anywhere. So what we'll do is we'll go through this quickly, and then Jose and Gabby and I will probably share some examples of how we have applied these 8 magic tips. So the first one is accept personal responsibility. So what that means is basically moving from the role of a victim to the role of a creator. Um, we are victims in a very oppressive system as dreamers, right? There are many laws that have been passed against us, but we can begin to move from that victim state of mind to a state of mind of a creator. I can change this. I can do something about it, and I'm going to take responsibility for what's under my control in order to change a situation. There are a lot of things that we cannot control, right? We cannot control legislation, we cannot control so many things, but there are some things like our behaviors, what we think, the actions that we take. Those things are under our control. Those are under, those are choices that we can make. So that's the first one, accept personal responsibility. I'll let Jose respond if he has an example of that.
You're on mute. There we go.
All right, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think for us, a lot of us, as you all know, come from very, very difficult backgrounds. It could be that we are coming from single-parent households. It could be that we're coming from families with not a lot of money. It could mean that we're facing a lot of obstacles. A lot of people just face certain obstacles. So I think in terms of accepting personal responsibility, we have to acknowledge that everyone in the United States has, problems, interacting with other people, or like they all have like their own regular problems. I think we're a little bit different because we have those problems too, like, high school and interacting with our parents and our friends. But on top of that, we have a government agency that wants to deport us. So it is
actively.
And I'm just shocked that, people like Herman, people like Gabby can succeed because we face twice as many barriers as other people. So I think what is key here is to say, yes, we face those barriers and we have certain responsibilities to overcome those barriers. Whether that means working a little bit harder than other people, whether that means taking a second or third job, whether that means spending less time with our friends because we're trying to help our families financially survive. We have to acknowledge, unfortunately, life is not fair. And we have to take steps that other people do not. And we have to undertake responsibilities that other people do not. Growing up, I had to take care of my younger brother for up until I left for college, which meant I spent a lot of time at home instead of out with friends. And that's very, very common, and I think that made me a better person. So accepting these sorts of personal responsibilities are very, very difficult, but at the end of the day, they do make you a better, more well-rounded person.
All right, thank you, Jose. The next one is discover self-motivation. The second tip is about finding a purpose, finding what it is that drives you. So I was asking you before, what does success mean to you? And whatever that is, it's a reflection of your values, right? What's important to you, whether it's money, whether it's recognition, whether it's status, whatever it is that's important to you, that will probably be related to your success. And you can use that as a motivator, as an internal motivator to help you succeed. So the second tip is discover self-motivation. And I think you can hear from our stories that we had certain things that were driving us, right? We had certain goals, we had certain things that we wanted to accomplish, and through the process of losing scholarships and not being able to pay for school and all those things, those goals and those values became reinforced, and they became even stronger motivators. So that is the second tip, to discover self-motivation. The third tip, according to research, is to master self-management. Master self-management. And what that means is to be able to use the resources you have internally and externally to your advantage. So one resource that you have that nobody can take away unless you commit a horrible crime is your time, right? You are in control of your time for the most part. So learning how to manage your time, how to schedule things, how to keep a calendar, how to make sure you're devoting time to the things that are important to you, that is a self-management technique that will really take you far, I think. Jose, do you have an example for mastering self-management?
Not self-management, but I wanted to talk a little bit about self-motivation. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Okay, no, I can't hear you. Okay, there, yes. Nope.
It's delayed, that's why.
Okay, okay.
I want to talk a little bit about self-motivation. Listen, a lot of us come from very poor backgrounds, and a lot of us, want to be engineers or doctors or something where for the first time in our life we'll be financially self-sufficient. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I have a lot of friends that have done that, and that's what works best for them, and I admire that. For other people, like for me personally, I think my motivation, and I know a lot of other fellow dreamers share this, is, we've seen what has happened to our community, and we strongly disagree with that sort of oppression. We disagree with that discrimination. We see Joe Arpaio pulling over our parents and friends and deporting them, and so our self-motivation is to stop that. Our self-motivation is to ensure that the community that comes after us will not have to live in fear. I know that's one of the reasons, like, a good friend of mine, Griselda, became a reporter so she could report on Latino and immigrant issues. People like Danny Rodriguez are going to law school to do social change. That's why I ended up going to MALDEF. And so I guess our self-motivation is to make our community a little bit better. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't always pay the greatest. But at the end of the day, it is very, very fulfilling, and it rewards you in terms of happiness and the knowledge that you're making a difference. And that, for me, is my own personal motivation. So I just wanted to share that.
Very good. Thank you, Jose. And I do want to echo that. I do want to emphasize that there's no wrong value. Whatever drives you, whatever motivates you, own it. It is your motivation, whatever that is, to make a better income, to become famous, whatever it is that really drives you. The fifth tip, or the fourth tip, is to employ interdependence. So interdependence means, dependence means relying on somebody, right, to be able to do a particular task. Independence means sort of being isolated, not needing anyone to do well. And I think our media and our culture and our society really praise independence. We always see the movie or we read the book about the guy or the girl who made it on their own and they're extremely successful. I personally think that that's a myth. I don't really think that anyone can do it on their own. It takes a village, right? So interdependence is about establishing relationships that are mutually beneficial. Okay, relationships with your family, with friends, with teachers, with tutors, with counselors, in your educational community and in your greater community, and using these relationships in a way that would be beneficial to you, but also being able to provide some kind of benefit to the people that are helping you, right? Not just taking, but also giving. I think you're muted, Jose.
Talk a little bit about interdependence and the need to rely on other people and have other people rely on you. Gabby?
Well, you're asking me.
Yes.
Okay. Well, definitely. I tend to be that person that believes that myth, right? That I'm an independent person and I do everything as I need to. But
Gabby.
The reality is that there is, if it wasn't for the team of people and the people that I actually choose the people I try to surround myself with, because I also know that being around positive people, being around people that are kind of in the same wavelength and mentality that I have, helps me, especially in the circumstances that we're in, right? So when I was going through college and when I was in high school, I actually had my college counselor tell me that I couldn't go to college because I didn't have papers, and that if I tried to go to college, I was going to get my family deported. So she put so much fear in me, and I was so afraid that I started looking for people that had the same issue, right, that were dreamers, that didn't have papers. So that really helped me, and that was kind of like my interdependence. And I hope that all of you who are going to college right now know that there's not just one person in your college. There's other dreamers there. And working with one another and finding that support within your peers is really, really great. One of the things that we would do is we would take classes together. And we would take classes together because we couldn't afford to pay for all the books. So what we would do is that we would share the books, we would study together, and we actually were really successful. We were able to get really good grades and feel that the dependence that we had for card rides, the dependence that we had for just information, and even we would hold each other accountable too, right? Because if one of us didn't read a chapter, then that meant that the other person was gonna also fall behind with you, because we all kind of needed the book. So I guess that's one way that I use interdependence to help myself be able to go through college and graduate from Miami-Dade.
Thank you, Gabby.
No problem.
I love what you said about surrounding yourself with people who are in the same wavelength, who have this similar mentality. And that leads into the next tip, which is to gain self-awareness. And self-awareness is really about your thoughts. It's really about your thoughts, your behavior, your emotions, and becoming aware of how your thoughts are either helping you advance or getting in the way of your success. How your behaviors are helping or deterring, right? How your emotions, how the way you respond to setbacks or how you respond to challenges, how that helps you advance or how it becomes a barrier. So gaining self-awareness is about understanding these thoughts, these emotions, these behaviors, and then taking steps to change them.
So I'd like to give an example. So like many of you, when I was in school, especially elementary school, I didn't have to try very hard because I was very, very lucky in that I'm smart. I'm not dumb. I don't know, sometimes. But then when I got to college, I
I
realized
could attest on that.
when I got to college, I realized that, I just didn't try as hard as I could have because, if I put in a little bit effort, it was B, it was fine. And then years later when I was applying to law school, I realized college is really not that hard, guys. You go to class, you do the test, like you would be surprised how easy it is to do well. You just have to put in a little bit of effort. And then I realized, if I had to do it over again, I'm a lawyer, I went to law school, I would have tried a lot harder in college, because sometimes it's really, really good to put that extra effort. And sometimes it's hard to see because it may not necessarily be an immediate benefit versus like going out with your friends or going out and doing something more fun versus staying in and writing a paper. But long term, it has such an impact. Those assignments determine your grades determine your future financial aid. Your future financial aid determines whether you're going to be paying loans off if you are able to get citizenship and get loans like that. So it does have a very big impact. So for me, that self-awareness was I could always try harder, and I need to not settle for acceptable. I need to push myself and go even further.
Thank you, Jose. And I like what you said about wanting to, if you could go back, you would try harder. And that leads into the next tip, which is to adopt lifelong learning and understanding that learning is not limited to the classroom and it's not limited to college, right? That's formal learning, right? You're getting a degree from some people who are gonna say, yeah, this person kind of knows what they're talking about. But learning goes beyond that, right? We're learning every day, we discover new things every day, and we continue to learn in our professional field. And there's a really good book by Thomas Friedman. It's called "The World Is Not the World is Flat," and it talks about how because of globalization, our professional fields are changing, and we're going to have to stay in school basically throughout our life in order to continue to learn new skills, in order to stay up with technology, and really be able to adapt to the new economies and the new environment. So adapting this mentality that learning is not just about the test, but it's something that we're going to have to do in basically every aspect of our life, absolutely in careers, absolutely in careers.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk about that a little bit because I think, people think, oh, college, right, it's just like the next step, but majority of the things that I learned in college, I am using today, right? And it's not necessarily the classes, but rather for instance, so one of the things that I learned is professors really care about you coming to class on time, right? And it's not so much you're paying. Well, we're giving you a scholarship, right? But during that time, I was paying for these classes, and I was paying a lot of money because I had to pay as an international student. And I was like, why does the professor care if I come to the class like 5 minutes late or not? But it was something about them really caring about their students and caring about what they had to say, and that if you would come to class late, that's what I meant, right? And so when and they also saw it as you missing out, right? So that in practical life, right? It's like if you're late to your job or if you're late to places, it's not so much about being late, but rather like the people around really care, one for your well-being, but also care, that you're part of this environment. The other thing too, is the networking, right? Talking to my professor and creating a relationship, not just showing up to class, was really beneficial. And I was able to, I think, learned a lot more just from the relationship that I built with the professor and with the people in my class than the actual like content that was inside a book. So the networking component of what I was learning in college now has had such a bigger and like much deeper effect into my current life, and I've been able to use all of that I learned in college now as a professional.
I want to provide some advice on this. So a few months ago, I realized at my work that I was writing a lot of letters, like a lot of statements. And one of the things I realized is, well, maybe my grammar rules aren't up to date. So what I did is, I bought a bunch of grammar books and I started studying, basic grammar rules that I had learned in elementary school and high school because I knew that I wanted to improve how I was doing my work. No one told me to do it. No one said, oh, your grammar is bad, but I knew in my heart that I could always get better. So it's just stuff like that, identifying your deficiencies and then just continuing to work on it without anyone having to tell you, I think is a really good way to be very, very successful.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. The next tip is to develop emotional intelligence, and this goes back to that tip about self-awareness. Emotional intelligence. We hear a lot about IQ, right? About intelligence. Research now shows that there are different kinds of intelligence. They're not just about content. There's multiple types, and emotional intelligence is about sort of being in tune with your emotions and understanding how your emotions kind of drive your behavior, and identifying if there are things, if there are strong emotions that help you sort of push forward, or if there are strong emotions that kind of get in your way. So if there are certain things, certain people, certain environments that trigger things for you that make you anxious or make you afraid or make you sad, make you depressed, it's a good thing to identify these things, talk to someone about them so that they don't continue to get in your way, right? When I started to get rejected from school, when I started to get rejected from scholarships, I would become really upset. I would become really sad. But over time, I learned to manage these emotions so that they don't get in the way. So now, if I get rejected from something, I'm kind of like, okay, whatever. I'll just keep going. And and really being able to manage those emotions so that you can use them to your benefit.
Jose, you want to say something?
Uh,
If I remember my 19-year-old self, I'm gonna slap her because I thought the world was gonna end all the time. From I remember that it was every semester, freaking out about paying for classes and how things were gonna go and how, just the things that at the moment seemed like the world was gonna end, and I knew that every semester something just happened. Something, the classes got paid for, whatever, just little things that I used to worry about, and they always got resolved. And here I am, 10 years later, and thinking like, oh my gosh, I could have saved myself from a lot of crying, tears, emotion. Jose?
yes, I think Yes. So I think in addition to school and employment work, our interactions with other people tend to kind of cause the most amount of grief and heartache. And like Gabby said, yeah, if I were to look at myself in high school and college and even law school, I'd be like, what are you doing? It's just so I think it is really, really critical to have healthy emotional intelligence, and you accomplish that by trying to figure out how you're perceived by other people, by understanding how your actions make other people feel and why that is, and understanding why other people's actions make you feel a certain way. I think one of the best things that made me have emotional intelligence is the realization that everyone is just really scared. Like they might not show it, but everyone is just like desperately flailing trying to figure out life. And so when you walk into a room or a party or a meeting, if you just realize that, if you realize that everyone's got their own stuff that they're messed up about, it makes it a little bit easier because then you're not alone. You're not thinking to yourself, "Oh, I'm the only one that's going through all this emotional stuff." It's like, no, it's everyone else. They're just as scared as you, you know. A lot of times we concern ourselves with, "Oh, you know, what are other people thinking about me or what are they saying or, you know, I just did this, it was really embarrassing." I think at the end of the day, you all would be surprised just how little other people really think about you because they're all really involved in their own stuff. So I think just having that self-awareness, that emotional intelligence, being considerate, being kind, trying to be the best person you can is a way to really, really, you know, be healthy emotionally and make sure that your interactions and social interactions with other people don't negatively affect your work or your school or other items similar to that as well.
Thank
So
you, Jose.
we're good because I think we're going to get to the last one, but just really quickly, I know that we're going to run over just a little bit of time, but I wanted to make sure that we were able to close with what does success for the Dream.us mean from us to all of you? So, Herman, can you get us through the last magic
Absolutely.
strategy?
The last strategy from research is to believe in yourself. So we know from research that confidence is called self-efficacy. Confidence in any particular task, confidence that you can do a particular task, accounts for over 40% of your performance, over 40% of how you do in that particular task. So if you are confident that you can do well in math and you have the math skills, then you're going to do well in math. But if you have the skills, but you're doubting your math skills, then you're probably not going to do that well. So believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will.
That's right. So, can you tell us, Jose, what we're looking at right now? And if you're talking, you're on mute. There you go.
So I guess a personal motto of mine has always been dare to dream for a lot of different reasons, you know. Growing up, lots of people, especially if you're undocumented, you know, will say, well, why are you getting a college education? You can't work. They were saying this like 5, 6 years ago. You know, why are you going to law school? You can't work. And then, you know, 2 years ago, we got DACA. So it just goes to show that you should always be working towards something and you should always want to improve yourself. And how very important it is to believe in yourself and dare to dream, you know. We are people that if we were citizens, because we're minorities, because we're Latino or we're Asian, we have a lower level of success because we come from very poor backgrounds. And on top of that, we have added the fact that we are undocumented, the fact that we are not supposed to be in the country. And in spite of that, many of us have not only succeeded, but we have thrived. And that is not only because other people believe in us, but because we believe in ourselves. And that's critical to make a difference, to improve yourself and to move forward. So I guess my personal motto has always been dare to dream. I actually made that from wood. They're giant Scrabble tiles on my wall. So I'm always reminded that I can always do better, that I should believe in myself, and that I should never give up, because look how far all of us have come. And in spite of how far all of us have come, the fact is we can still go farther, and we will, guys. And I'm really excited to see the accomplishment, the progress, and the success that all of you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Jose. And so from the perspective of the Dream.us, This is what success for us from all of our students means. And there is the practical ones, right? The ones that we ask you, and we say that you have to have a 3.0 GPA during your college career. And so 3.0, it's a B average. And we ask you to have a B average or above every semester and that you graduate with that. So to us, success would be that. The other part, what I just said, is graduation, right? We want to make sure that you have the time in this 4 years, if you're doing an associate's degree, 2 years, or if you're doing a bachelor's degree in 4 years, that you graduate and that you are able to complete your college education. The other thing that we ask and what we would see as success is you asking questions. We know that right now there's a lot of things that are up in the air. We're adding new colleges to our scholarship program. The rules are kind of changing. It's a new program. We're not even a year old. Actually, I think that in a couple of days I'm going to be 1 year since I was hired to do this work and was brought on to create the scholarship for Dreamers. So it's a new program. We're still learning. We need you to help us, and we need you to also ask questions. So if you see that something's happening with your schedule, go and ask your advisor. Your advisors are there to help you and support you. If your first day of classes you're lost and you want to introduce yourself to the professor and say, I have a few questions, do that. One of the things that I've learned early on in life is that the students that ask questions are more successful students. And so the last thing that we want to make sure that for the Dream.us, for you and what that means success, is that you have a good experience and that you are able to connect with other dreamers. You are able to come together on your campuses, and if you want to form a group, that you form a group, but that you support each other and you have a community that is there to make sure that you're on track, make sure that if you have questions or if you have any issues or problems, that they're there to support you through this journey that is college. And so right now we're going to take a few questions because we know that we're running a little bit over time, but Dan Gone, he had run to your question on what success meant. He says that success, in my personal opinion, is leading a life that makes you feel proud of yourself and which you bring no harm to others around you. And being successful to me means being able to overcome obstacles that I have encountered in my life path towards achieving certain goals, whether it's personal, educational, or work-related. Let's see other questions. So somebody.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it says, I think an important thing to learn that was a bit hard for me is that reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness, rather a sign of strength. So definitely, that was Laura Garcia that said that. Let's see. Diana Restrepo, she said, I can definitely relate to the interdependence. Thanks to the Dream.us student network, I have connected with a peer that has been able to guide me through this new college experience. His support on his journey is a valuable asset towards my success. Here, the Matt Zagzul says, we have thrived. That's the motto. So somebody else says, I have 2 questions. I appreciate these Google Hangouts, but is there a possibility that all the Dream Scholars could get together in person to hear all the wonderful stories and get to know each other? Well, it'll probably be difficult to get all the Dream Scholars together because you are in 18 different states, but there are students in each different campuses. In Florida, that's the biggest group of students. There's about 100 students in Florida, but there are students in California, Texas, Washington, D.C. Today is the day that many Dreamers are coming in from different parts of D.C. and are moving into their dorms at Trinity Washington University, and there's some students in New York. And we're happy to announce that there's going to be Dreamers in Arizona. So we're also going to have some Dreamers there in Illinois. Hopefully, with the new round, we're going to get more Dreamers in different parts of the country. So let's see other questions really quickly. Sonia Verduzco, who's actually one of our advisors, and we're so happy that she's on. She is in California, and she says, thank you. What the three of you are sharing right now about emotional intelligence is gold, especially as a member of the non-dominant culture. There are certain ways we process emotions that are not necessarily acceptable in mainstream media. So thank you so much. You see, we even have advisors on because they care and they want to learn, about this, which is really, really amazing. Let's see. What other questions? So, Aaron Martinez, he says, "Dare to dream." Thank you, Jose. We are the one. We are the only ones who set our own limitations, and this organization has helped many of us keep a step towards something greater than just us. We are dreamers. With exclamation. So, let's see. So just send us your questions if you have any questions for either Herman, Jose, or myself. And let's see. So somebody says, Monica Cruz, one of our students, who's in Dallas, in Texas, she says, you know what you're doing, you know you're doing what you want because you are having fun with it. Jose, do you have fun at Malda? Doing your work?
I have fun in usually seeing the impact of the work. When I can go back to Arizona and someone can apply for a new immigration benefit or someone gets to stay in the country because of something that I and my allies did. It's a lot of fun and it's very enjoyable. So yes, I have fun some of the time.
Not when we're seeing, mean things being said about us by some legislators, but okay. So there's some questions that are coming in more specific to the scholarship, which I'll answer. But is there? I think we have gone through some of these. It's a little hard tracking these questions on Google because what happens is that if people like the question, people press the like button, and so they start changing around. So one of our advisors, again, Sonia, says, we are so proud of you dreamers. You inspire us. So, and those advisors that all of you have been handpicked, and these advisors are so passionate about the work that they're doing. So make sure that you are talking to them, that they're your resource, your support, your go-to person at all of our colleges that we have. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. Oh, Herman and Jose, where's a good, there's a question here. Where's a good place to find private scholarship for dreamers?
I will. There's a couple different resources. The first, there's a MALDEF list that I previously mentioned. There is an Educators for Fair Consideration. They just released two really good lists, one's for undergrad and one's for graduate schools. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund, I believe it's called, just recently started accepting DACA individuals to give them scholarships. That was a very recent decision. Obviously, the Dream US. And here's the biggest source of scholarships that you guys need to look. Institutional scholarships, which are scholarships given by universities to students from the university itself. So it's usually part of the application process. Sometimes they have you fill a separate application. That is where the vast majority of financial aid, because a lot of these universities have a lot of money, and they base that on GPA, on SAT scores, etc. That's how I got my scholarship for law school. You know, I didn't go apply to some scholarship that was hosted by a foundation. I literally just applied to the school, and they gave me a scholarship to go. So find out what the financial aid policies are for the universities you're applying to, and even call the financial aid office to ask about specific questions. Most of the time, universities don't care about your immigration status. So don't let that stop you from moving forward.
Yep. And if you have not seen, we also have on our website a resource tab, and every single one of those places that so sorry, can you guys hear that? That's so weird. Every single place that Jose mentioned, if you go to the resource tab, you'll find it there. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions that we got. Okay, so just a question that is specific to the scholarship program. It says, I have a question regarding the scholarship. I know the scholarship was going to be transferred yesterday. When is it going to show classes are paid? So I'm not really sure because it goes from college to college, and also this is something that Erin, who used to be McKay, but now it's Erin Strand. She just recently got married, so she changed her last name. So she is the go-to person to ask any questions dealing specifically to dollars and your scholarship, when things are going to get paid, etc. We know that scholarship management services sent out and wired money to all the different schools yesterday, and so students' classes, and depending on how the college works, we don't know how that works because every college has its own way of doing that. Should have received it either today or Monday. So check in with your college and see, and ask your financial aid. And if you still have a question regarding that, reach out to Erin Strand. Okay. So we have Jose Hernandez saying, thank you so much, Gabby, Jose, and Herman. I can truly relate to some of the experiences you guys went through and obstacles you guys faced. Now that I've reached college, and your words throughout this video will be my guide as I start my college career. And we'll take two more. Jose, that is so true. I would encourage students to ask every teacher, advisor, administrator, assistant, etc. that they meet. They never know who knows who and what resources are out there. So make sure you're asking questions. If you, there's our scholarship pays for tuition and fees, but we know that some of you, are moving and might need housing and might need, money for other expenses. So, keep making sure that you are reaching out to as many people as you can. So, I think that is it. Herman, do you want to do a closing message?
No, thank you everyone for making the time to get on the hangout. Again, thank you, Gabby, for organizing. Thank you, Jose, and it's been a lot of fun and an honor to talk to all of you future leaders and future professionals. I'm really looking forward to see where you all end up. So good luck in your college journey.
Definitely, and we can't wait to have doctors that we can go for free, right? And our kids and their teachers. Okay, Jose.
Gabby, thank you so much for organizing this. Herman, obviously, thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone that joined. I guess I want to leave my final message to you all is, we are a lot of things. We're all undocumented, but being undocumented is not our identity. It is not what decides what limits we have. It is not what tells us we can and cannot do. Being undocumented is not our identity. We make our own identity, and it's up to you what you want that identity to be. And with people like Gabby, people like Herman, scholarship funds like the Dream US, we want to give you the tools to be able to make that choice and follow through. So we're here if you need help, and we encourage you to keep moving forward and enjoy a wide variety of success.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Thank you.